Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, look who I happen to found. My big homie, Kate Powell, one of the smartest people in all the internet when it comes to finance, stocks, politics. Hopefully, she's going to make a run one day. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, but don't put all the pressure on me, man. Like I don't trade or anything like that. So I just
You-
make fun of
but
everyone
to
who
know, but to know the knowledge, you don't have to be a trader. You are so versed in understanding what's going on in the markets, and you've been pinpointing to people how we're sitting on the verge of a bubble,
yeah.
and there are a lot of great creators who are in it. I'm a trader, and I can tell you things are turning for the worse too. But before we go there, let everybody please go follow this young lady on TikTok. She does an amazing job. This is her second time on the show, and she's already in the Hall of Fame on this channel. Already, she's a Hall of Famer, and she does good work. And we've got a lot we're going to cover. We're going to cover what's going on with this AI bubble. We're going to cover how the Democrats wet the bed with the ACA. I'm still mad about that to this moment. We're also going to talk about Dumb and Dumber, Trump and his acolytes, Stephen Miller and Stephen Miller's wife, actually invoking the name of Jennifer Welch from the I've Had It podcast. But before we get into all that, Kate, oh yeah, I got it for you, Kate. I got it. I
I
got it. I got it. Before we go there, Kate, please tell me, what have you had it with over the last couple of days?
Oh my God. Well, I've had it with a couple of things.
Okay.
One, if we're gonna stick to like economic things, I've had it with people screaming about how it was the best Black Friday ever, and so nothing to see here, everything's fine. Yeah, exactly. My eyes rolled right out of my head. Let's just ignore every other economic indicator ever because Black Friday was quote unquote good. And define good, like, yes, dollar for dollar, maybe good as far as like products moving, whatever, as far as, like overall consumer participation. No, I think as those numbers come out, that's going to just look worse and worse. And yeah, so I'm real tired of people trying to grab tiny little bits of light and say like, see, everything else is like not a big deal now, because it is so disingenuous to the reality that we're feeling on the ground. It's very, I don't like to use the term gaslighting because I think it's overused, but it is gaslighting the people who continue to feel the economic squeeze. I get incredibly frustrated with people who are clearly in positions of privilege saying things like, "Oh, look, the shopping season on one day was fantastic." Not considering maybe that, sure, probably people have been saving up to do this one day and now they're going to scuttle back under the rock and hunker down because of the ACA, because of SNAP work requirements coming in, because of insert thing here. They're trying to have maybe a Christmas before God knows what in 2026. And anyway, so that's what I've had it with. I've had it with the cherry picking. And it's funny, I get accused of cherry picking all the time, that I cherry pick like one little data point. Oh yeah, all the time. I cherry pick one little data point, and that's how I come up with like the bubble talk and everything. And I'm just like, no, it's because I consume an absurd amount of information. And when you've got analysts from Bloomberg and analysts from like The Nation magazine all saying that there are problems at the same time, like there are problems because they don't usually agree with each other. And what those problems will look like as far as like how they manifest, I don't know. My crystal ball broke yesterday, but what I do know is that we're not okay, and I'm tired of people trying to say that we are. So that's what I've had it with.
I am one. So I agree with what you said. And I'm also going to jump in with what you said in terms of I'm tired of them lying about the data. For one, some of the data they're not even printing out properly. They're
Right.
not even giving us the raw data because they know how bad it is. That's number one. And I'm tired of people who have money and privilege that are stumping for Trump, not understanding that this is a K shape we're in right now, where the people who are not really invested that much, they're losing worse. And basically only 10% of people are actively invested in the stock market. That can't be your barometer. And even that is showing cracks. Even that is showing cracks, ladies and gentlemen. For my folks who know, SQQ, jumping from 20 something dollars in 2 months to 70. The bearish inverse ETF. You know that. And then for those of you that follow the other parameters that follow trading in the stock market, crypto, treasuries, and the gold standard, the 10-year, are dropping like a rock. If you was to put a rock in the Titanic, it would drop before the Titanic. It is bad. So I am sick of that part too, that gaslighting of the economy and this running out whole hunky-dory Black Friday. That, folks, they neglect to tell you that a lot of the money that people are using is borrowed money. Yes. They neglect to tell you that there are so many outlets now, from PayPal to Cash App, that will let you borrow money as low as $50 up to some cases $1,000, and you pay it back later using middlemen like a firm, company called a firm. And I'm like, Kate, I'm running around researching this data because I make a living off of it. And they're not reporting to you how high American consumer debt is because they want you to feel like everything is hunky-dory.
Yeah, it's real bad.
It's not good. It's not good, which leads me into what I've had it with. I've had it with the erosion of education. I'm calling this Trump era the delightment period. And Trump and his acolytes deciding what should be a professional career or not, so that you have to pay the most amount of money in paying back student loans.
Yes.
Why the fuck is a nurse not a profession?
Right.
Can somebody tell me that? Yeah. Along with a whole host of others that have been the backbone of this society since we started getting modern. I'm just using nursing because my real background is I'm a respiratory therapist. So I worked hand in hand with nurses when I was in the hospital. And it makes me so upset that people are tolerating us dumbing down education, thinking that it's cool to be dumb, and not going to the real people who have the expertise to do a certain job. You just find some quack on the internet to tell you how something should be with some conspiracy. I've had it. Kate, am I wrong? Should I go shoot myself in the foot? Please tell me what's going on.
I pulled this data last week on the student loan and what's a professional degree and what's not and whatever. There's absolutely no correlation between the list that the Trump administration put out as far as employability, salary ranges, like all that kind of thing. The lists of degrees that they were pushing, a lot of them have very high unemployment rates upon graduation, and they don't have great earning potential. And then others that have low unemployment rates upon graduation and great earning potential are not on that list. They have, and this is numbers as of 2024. We're not talking about like I pulled something from like 2020 or whatever. It has no basis in reality or data. As usual, this administration is allergic to data, but this entire thing was like such a farce right on its face. I was like, it's not based in anything about whether or not the student would have the ability or the wherewithal to pay it back in an expeditious way upon graduation at all. It had everything to do with trying to push careers in finance, in tech, in theology was on that list. So like, the Christian nationalists got theirs. So with that, it's purely a political little stunt that had nothing to do with the real issue, which is making sure that higher education leads to gainful employment. I'm all about incentivizing any loan program or anything like that. First of all, I'm about universal education, but we'll just leave that aside for a second. Sorry. But I am all about making sure that we are being transparent and clear about what will and will not give you meaningful and gainful employment upon graduation. Love it for all of us. That stunt had nothing to do with any of it, and anybody who thinks otherwise, I mean, seriously, it was a very simple Google search. CNBC, I think, had collected the data from various sources. They had a really great summary on it. And again, the data was as of the end of 2024. So we're talking about like as recent as you can get for like real research. And yeah, so no, you're 100% correct. And I'm real tired of that. And it's also I almost forgot to mention there's the whole student loan kerfuffle is all about something called Bennett's hypothesis, which has been at best ambiguous, at worst disproven several times empirically. But this idea that if we limit student loans, it will somehow incentivize lower tuition rates with schools. There's literally no data showing that relationship whatsoever. That was a hypothesis that was put out in 87. We had a lot of theories running around in the 80s that have turned out to be not true. And this just looks like it's another one of those. The studies that are out are either inconclusive or outright disproving the hypothesis. And so we need to put it to bed. I've had it with Bennett's hypothesis, just like you.
And I've had it with this administration doing everything they can to push the kind of loans most people need when it comes to student loans, when it comes to cars, when it comes to homes. I've had it with them trying to force people into these private loans that they don't need, that they can just basically do whatever they want in terms of interest rates. And they've deregulated a lot of the rules that was in place. Right. And then recently Trump was talking about a 50 fucking year mortgage, people. Yes. And some of you MAGA, the ones in the cheap seats listening to me, thought that was good, clapping for. Are you serious?
And trying to shut down the CFPB at the same time. So it's let's increase consumer debt. Let's get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
He did that first week. He signed. He signed an executive order like the first week of his presidency to shut down the Consumer Finance Bureau.
Yeah, well, and he can't, because congressionally he can't. But then, like the last week, he was trying to do like another swing to it at Congress because it's still alive. And what's funny is he literally just nominated a new person to head it. So I just was like laughing because I was like, you actually can't get rid of it, you know it, but you're just like talking as usual. You hit the nail on the head. The pushing everybody into private loans so that we can jack up interest rates and make money on consumers, because that's all this is about, is taking the average consumer, making tons of money on them. And it's funny, you mentioned debt earlier. It's not just the consumer in debt, it's these big tech companies too. We'll talk about that in a second, but like everybody is using debt for this supposed economic growth that we're going through. It is absurd. We just need to wake up, everybody. So.
For my MAGA folks that do listen to me out of hate, we're going to be sure we break down these things in terms that you can Google search and look up, Chat GPT, or whatever is easier for you if you decide you want to do it. And for those of you that don't know what ambiguous means, it means unclear in meaning. If that went over your head, I just want to make sure y'all know so we're all on the same page here. But when we get to the AI talk, folks, that is going to be one for the ages, because we both have some thoughts about that and what we have both seen and reading. I'm active in it day to day. It's going to be a doozy. And so let us go ahead and get into this thing. So Kate, I've got a couple of things for you. Let's see here.
All right.
You know, I want to save the AI for last, because that's going to be a good one. Yeah, we'll save that one. Let's get into how you feel about the Democrats caving and the ACA just dangling out there waiting for your favorite House Speaker, Mike Grinder Johnson, to Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me chill out. Let's get into it. Take a listen to this, Kate, and we'll discuss it on the back end.
Only the Democratic Party could clean sweep an election and then decide less than a week later it's time to abandon all of our leverage. We should give up completely. We just had a massive win. Again, public opinion on our side. Wind is at our back. Let's capitulate for no reason and win nothing.
It pisses me off that they are pretending that they got anything out of this, because they got nothing out of this. Of the senators that caved, they're saying that like, oh, I fought to make sure that government employees that were laid off will be reinstated, or I fought to make sure that back pay would be secured for all the federal workers. Those were things that were already going to happen. That's not a win. Stop pretending you did anything.
Yeah.
Just stand on why you actually did it. Just stand on the idea that you opened the government back up because of Snap or whatever the it was, and that you didn't have the political will to put that on Donald Trump, who ultimately bears the responsibility for this.
3 of the Democrats that betrayed the party and voted to end the government shutdown also voted against a $15 minimum wage 4 years ago. It is the same people that are consistently undermining momentum or outright stopping any project that would make the party more popular or stand up against the right wing. It's insane. Like, because the party is not held together by any set of central ideas, there is no way to advance a project or a movement that actually holds a coalition together. And if we want to go anywhere with this party, and in fact, if we want to defeat fascism moving forward, we cannot allow these people to stifle any and all progress or any and all momentum.
Incredible.
Shout out to those brothers.
Okay.
I've rocks with them. They're friends of the show. They do amazing work. Go follow them as quickly as you can. Floor is yours, my friend Kate. They hit it on the head. They hit it on the head.
I am so incredibly frustrated. So let me try to break this down. First of all, we all knew that the shutdown needed to end. Nobody was advocating for a never-ending shutdown. Nobody was advocating for a shutdown, period, just to have a shutdown. Like, I got so sick and tired of the mind-numbing comments on my stuff, on other posts, saying that, oh, you just want to shut the government down. Yeah, of course, that's what I want. I want flight delays. I want, bureaucratic nonsense. I want my tax refund to be held up for another year. That's what I want. I want all the things, the services that people need and rely on to grind to a halt. Absolutely. Of course not. Nobody wanted that. What we understood is that this is political warfare right now for a couple things. For our democracy, for the literal lives of people who depend upon our broken healthcare system, and for, the rule of law. Like, those were the 3 things that were on the line. Those are big things. It was not, oh, let's shut the government down because we couldn't get 5 F-35s built instead of 4 in the defense appropriations bill. So let's just shut the whole thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't nitpicking over budgetary line items. I would 100% agree that is not worth disrupting the whole government, losing a bunch of economic, growth and whatever. But when we're talking about the underpinnings of our democratic system, when we're talking about the rule of law, following judges' orders, doing what we're supposed to be doing in co-equal branches of government, yada, yada. And when we're talking about, again, the literal life or death of somebody who cannot afford healthcare, again, in our broken system without these ACA subsidies, that was a good enough reason to go through some of the bullshit that comes with a shutdown and with the government coming to a screeching halt. That being said, if the Democrats were not willing to get anything that would advance any of those causes, then why the fuck did we shut it down? I was talking to my psychologist actually about this, and he said, don't get into a Mexican standoff if you're going to blink first, don't do it. And what's enraging is I was actually calling Jean Shaheen, Senator of New Hampshire. I was calling her office today about this because literally from the first or second day of the shutdown, she was already in the press. So, it was already hit the press, which means she'd been doing stuff before. She was already in the press, being I'm going to be the one who brings us all together. I'm going to be the one who finds a bipartisan solution. And she was the one who led that caucus of 8 people. I'm going to try not to call them names, but 8 senators who caved. And I remember I called her office on October 3rd or something. It was day 3 of the shutdown. It was she needs to watch herself and she needs to stop publicly making this look like there's already cracks. You are 3 days in and you have gotten absolutely nothing for this. And if she's already signaling that we're going to cave, how is anyone supposed to do anything with that? How is public opinion supposed to shift? In spite of her nonsense, in spite of the other centrist nonsense like Angus King and whatever, in spite of all of that, public opinion was shifting. And I realized polling is polling, and there were all kinds of like kind of dramatic back and forths about whether it was the Democrats' fault or the Republicans. Generally, whether it was really the Republicans' fault, or at least mostly the Republicans' fault, or a slim majority thought it was the Republicans' fault, there was no poll at the point of capitulation demonstrating that anyone thought it was the Democrats' fault, by and large. And I realized, sorry, my screen just went weird for a second. I realized that there is, you know, there was no way to make this like clean. It's not, they couldn't come out looking like shining stars. What they could come out doing, though, was saying, if you guys want this fucking government open, do it yourselves. Because, as I told people 100 times, the whole scuttlebutt was the filibuster, right? We need 60 votes. We need 60 votes. No, you don't. Because the truth of the matter is that you only need 60 votes if the Senate rules say that you need 60 votes. And who makes the Senate rules? The senators. And how many votes do you need to change the rules in the Senate? 51. They had the ability to change the rules. And then I know there was all this debate about whether they could have like put the filibuster back after they suspended it. They could have. It's all a construct. It's like I'm telling people. It's like if MAGA, because I'm going to refer to them as MAGA right now, if MAGA really wanted that government open on their terms only, and they really were willing to like own it, they could have done it at any time.
Mm-hmm.
They did not want to own it because they already own the big, beautiful bill. They did not want to own opening the government on their terms only with more nonsense. It wasn't a clean bill. No matter how many times people say it, you can say clean, clean, clean. It doesn't clean anything. There were things put into it, including like the senators being able to sue the Justice Department and like all kinds of all nonsense was snuck into it anyway. So this whole like, we're not asking them to do anything but a clean bill. It's just, and we all knew that was going to happen, which is why we said, hold the goddamn line.
The line.
So you didn't hold the line.
Nope.
And now, as of today, even I was, they're back at work finally. They took another week off last week because, oh gosh, like we've worked so hard this year. So they're finally back at work, and Thune is already saying, yeah, I don't think we're going to have an ACA deal by the end of the year.
No.
Which I'm like shocked and awe. I wasn't even mad. I was just like, yeah. And I don't even think we're going to have appropriations bills by any new appropriations done by the end of the year either.
No.
Again, shock. I'm shocked. I'm so like, this is my surprised face that we are not motivated to do our jobs now that the pressure's off.
Yes.
And I know that Mike Johnson was doing this whole show of like, I'll just keep the House shut down. You know what's so interesting is that when it came to open the government, they did pass 3 appropriations bills for FY26. They were all the Senate versions of the bills. At the end of the day, in the whole like deal that we've got going on in this present Congress, in the 119th Congress that we're dealing with right now, the Senate holds almost all of the power. Just because of the way it's constructed, because Mike Johnson's a weak leader. He doesn't know how. He has no interest in building caucuses. He is a slave to Trump. Thune has a bit more of a backbone, so he is able to actually caucus. Johnson has 0 of those skills. Like, why Louisiana puts up with him is just beyond my understanding, but we'll just leave that to the side for a second. So the House is, at the end of the day, when it comes time to like do whatever, John Thune is the way that's going to happen. And if John Thune was under the impression from the Democratic Party that they were going to hold the line and say, fuck you, either change the Senate rules and do this your damn self, and then we'll see you at midterms, or you can actually caucus with us and we can actually pass some real legislation. If they had simply made it a binary that you have 2 choices, pick one, but the choice we're not going to make is voting with you to open this government without healthcare subsidies, without protections from OMB, without making sure that we follow court orders, like, and the law, and like whatever. Like, we're not going to do it. Then John Thune would have fixed it. I'm convinced because Thune is not Johnson, and they were just like, oh, like he wasn't going to move. I'm like, yeah, he wasn't going to move because you kept signaling to him that you were going to move.
Yes.
So anyway, I know that was like really long, but just the three, like you didn't get the what you wrote into the what the Democrats wrote into the continuing resolution were all things that needed to happen.
Right.
Stopping Russ Vogt from being the king, like he's been trying to do. Stopping the overreach of executive branch power into congressional budgetary power, stopping rescission, stopping all that bullshit. And then the ACA subsidies and most importantly, rolling back the healthcare cuts from the big beautiful bill. All of those things needed to happen. And I, for one, and I know I'm just one voter, one person, but I, for one, would have been satisfied if you had gotten even one thing, prioritizing probably the lives, right? The healthcare. Like, that's like the big thing, like the people literally dying, right? Like, we need to deal with that. But you got absolutely nothing. And now they're sitting there going like, oh, appropriations. Oh, so they're going to try and make you swallow another continuing resolution in January. The people don't trust you anymore because you gave up. Why are we I'm not going to rally my people to try to stop you from that in January. Why would I do that? Like, for what? To get excited about what? It's too late for premium increases. The premiums are going to go up. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore what we do with the subsidies. Like, the subsidies will stem. They won't even stem the bleeding. If we get subsidies, which it doesn't look like we will, Thune has absolutely no intention of getting subsidies to anybody. Even if we got subsidies, it would stop amputations. There would still be lots of bleeding. There would still, and I'm being metaphorical, obviously, but
right.
There's plenty of people who will still lose coverage because the premiums have gone up so high that subsidy or no subsidy, they just can't afford it. And then there will be some people for whom the subsidy will just be able to make them afford it, and then they will have nothing else, and then they will maybe starve to death instead or get kicked out of their house or whatever. Like, it's a complete disaster. And I'm speaking as someone who is not personally affected by any of this. Unless my circumstances drastically change tomorrow, I can weather through this. But I am so fucking angry that we didn't get one goddamn thing out of this for millions of people who will either lose coverage, have to get shittier coverage that doesn't really take care of them, or will end up losing their jobs because they're government workers who can't be protected because Russ Vogt is still just doing the most. I could go on forever, but I'm infuriated by, I'm still infuriated by all of it. And I think that it was a huge mistake. It was even worse that it was literally days after the state and local Democrats. And I really want to emphasize this point. The state and local Democrats did the fucking work at the beginning of November.
Yes, they did.
And to have the federal level ones just go like, thanks for that boost. Now we can go home because we're tired of fighting this fight, was what a slap in the face to all of them.
Oh my God.
I was like, and then I'm listening to like apologist journalists and whatever trying to make excuses for the federal level Democrats. How I saw one today that was like, people need to stop saying they're going to run for something without any political experience, yada yada yada. And I'm like, fuck you.
What?
Bring on the groundswell. I can't.
Yes.
I want to see every local Democratic chapter being like, I'm going to primary you. I'm going to do this and whatever. That matters or not. The point is that they should, they have every right to be completely infuriated with you and to be like, fuck the hierarchy, fuck the chain of command.
That's it.
I'm not waiting my turn anymore for Chuck Schumer to go away after 80 fucking years. I know I'm dropping a lot of F-bombs on your show, but I'm just
you good. You good.
I'm done with all of that. I'm like, and again, I'm speaking as an independent. I'm not even, what's crazy is like, I'm not even a Democrat. Like, I don't have a horse in that race as far as like the party and the politics and like being part of that congregation and whatever. And I'm infuriated for the state and local Democrats because it's just like, you took all of their work, used it for your own, like used it to both, basically, as the federal Democrats were like, well, now we have the shine, right? Not from stuff we did, but from what the state and local levels did. And so now we can use that to make a swift exit out of the shutdown because we're tired and we don't want to do it anymore. That's what it was. And no one's going to convince me otherwise, because all the data points to that. All of the hard data about what it was and what the people wanted, not what the airlines wanted, not what Walmart wanted, because they're the ones who wanted this government open because they needed a holiday season. Anyway, there we go. I said it.
Now I'm completely in line with Kate, because you had a mayor that won on an economic populist message. That message was not just resonating with progressives like me. It was resonating with MAGA, a lot of MAGA. He spoke in a way and went on shows, got himself introduced to a lot of MAGA folks that said, you know what, the stuff he's saying makes a lot of sense. He's only going to ask these people to pay an extra 2%, but that can help me with education, healthcare, transportation,
childcare,
rent. It can help me with all these things. That sounds fair. And what happened with the federal Democrats is oftentimes what you see in local levels and in city levels, because I've been vice president of Young Democrats here in my community. You see the old guard stealing the energy of the young people coming in like me with all these ideas. And when they see which one of those ideas actually work, they'll take it from you. And then when you want to say, let's implement it the way I said it, they'll be like, no.
Not
and
like
then
that.
they'll tell, then they'll tell you, you should just be happy that you're helping the people. Like, fuck you.
Yep.
How are you going to implement what I know the people want, and you're going to halfway do it because you're beholding to your benefactor that's sitting above you?
Yep.
That's what happened with the federal Democrats. Yep. They have benefactors who love a specific country, who has a war criminal running the country, and they said, it's time for you to cave. And I'm sorry, Kate, but that fucking Fetterman, Lord, I'm so done with him.
He's not a Democrat. It's really hard. It's really hard to even take him seriously, because it's just like, well, you're not a Democrat. Like, at least just be an independent, move on. Like, at least that. Like, if you don't want to say you're a Republican, fine. I don't care. But like, it's bizarre. Like, there's literally nothing he stands for that is of the Democratic Party. Nothing.
He is one person who has voted against increasing minimum wage every time it brings up while he's been in office.
Right.
Come on, man.
He's insane for Pennsylvania, by the way. For Pennsylvania, representing the constituents of Pennsylvania, I'm like, I don't understand why y'all keep voting for him. I mean, I understand what it's big money. Like, we all know what the real cause is, but like it's it's anyway, infuriating.
Yeah. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you was going to get that heat. And if you go to her TikTok, you can oftentimes catch her doing videos where she is literally calling politicians. And you do not want to miss any minute of those phone calls. Now, a lot of you might hear a voicemail, but I'm telling you, she gives the damn best responses on a voicemail. Folks, you have got to go to that TikTok, show this sister some love, because you'll get all this in her own contained box. Now, Kate, I got one more for you.
Okay.
Stephen Miller. It's not hyperbole to say he's a white nationalist. That's not hyperbole. I can pull up verifiable evidence of that. And he's married to a woman who we would consider a minority. But a lot of people would say she's been MAGA peeled. Well, they was getting into a debate on CNN, Abby Phillips, and they was talking about free speech and people saying this, people saying that. She gets cornered, and oftentimes when MAGA gets cornered on TV, they do a couple of things. Number one, the old playbook, they just try to talk over you, which I wish people would just start cutting the fucking mic. They do that. Number two, they deflect to something that they feel a little bit more confident about. And then number three, they will sit here and try to take whatever you're saying that is against them and turn it on you. Well, she tried to do that with Jennifer Welch of the I've Had It podcast. Take a quick listen to this. Get your popcorn ready, because this is going to get low.
Stephen Miller is a white nationalist. He reminds me of a Nazi. He sounds like a Nazi. His wife is the exact same thing. She continues to very histrionically go on cable news and faceplant. And I was just shocked to shit the other morning when I woke up and she's on CNN and she brings up yours truly. Let's play the clip.
Hey, Tucker. Unacceptable. Don't do that.
It's not up to you or myself to police speech in our country.
I mean, shouldn't it be up to JD Vance to say this is not part of our movement?
Are you okay? Are you okay with Nick Fuentes?
Here we go. I'm a Jew. Do you want to go there? And let's say this.
Yeah, I just asked the question. Was yes or no?
Yes, I'm okay. If Nick Fuentes wants to be able to speak freely in our country, he has every right to do so. Do I agree with his views? Do I think that they should become mainstream in our country?
Yes or no question.
Absolutely not.
But hold on.
I really want to go back to this for 1 second.
But this isn't about whether he can speak freely. It's about whether someone like Tucker Carlson, who is a very powerful force in the conservative movement.
You host people on your show all the time who call my husband and myself a Nazi. So how is that any different from Tucker Carlson going on? Nick Fuentes having Tucker Carlson on his show? It's not different.
He's actually
anti-Semitic. He's anti-Semite.
A Hitler admirer. Nick Fuentes is actually a Hitler admirer.
But he literally is not a good
That is
being.
a different thing.
Excuse me, you have Jennifer Welsh on your show very often, and you've never pushed back as she is.
Ooh, you had Jennifer Welch on your show. Here's the thing that Katie Miller needs to understand is me calling you and your husbands white nationalists and Nazis does not exist in a vacuum. It is the consensus. Your administration that you're working for has a 30 to 35% approval rating, and you stay in your silo all the time. There are journalists after journalists, publication after publication, example after example of your husband echoing white nationalist talking points that are very reminiscent of Nazi Germany. And
Kate Powell, I am sorry that the name Kate anything was wasted on another human being when you have set the gold standard for Kate anything. What do you think? So basically that conversation came up because Tucker Carlson had a little Thanksgiving thing with Piers Morgan, and he was referring to people in the LGBTQ plus community as the old pejorative F. And if you want to replace it with bag, y'all know what I'm saying.
Right.
And just basically saying that it should be fine to run around and say those type of things. And Kate Miller was trying to basically defend it. And before I give the floor to you, Kate Powell, the real Kate.
The real one.
There is a difference between free speech and hate speech.
Yes.
And having said that, I'm gonna give the floor to you.
So I was listening. I need to look up the speaker that I was listening to the other day about who was talking about free speech and the history of free speech in our country and the original, for all my originalists with the Constitution, like the original. God. First Amendment and everything. You know, what's interesting is when originalists try to stand 10 toes down and then you start giving them the original intents of the founders.
Right.
All of a sudden they don't want that anymore. They want originalism when it fits with their ideologies.
Narrative.
It stops. Or the minute that there wasn't actually consensus where they thought there was, then they're all like, no. And I'm like, but I thought originalism, right? Isn't that what you want? Anyway, they're just the most unserious, disingenuous people on the planet. But that's a different story.
Thank you.
So free speech was never intended to be a consequence-free, say whatever the fuck you want thing.
Mm-hmm.
It truly was not. It was always understood that there are absolutely consequences to things that you say, because the things that you say lead to things that you do or things that other people do. And, I know there's things like the clear and present danger test and other things that have kind of come up in case law throughout history. But the idea that you can literally say this weird binary thing of, well, I can either say whatever the fuck I want and that is free speech. And I can say whatever I want and there are literally zero repercussions to it. Or you are crushing democracy by not allowing, like, that's like the weird binary that people like Katie Miller, and she's Katie and I don't go by Katie, so that's kind of how I deal with it, is like, by the way, like, she's not Katie.
She doesn't deserve KAT, period.
Yeah, no, she can be Katie. And actually I know lots of lovely Katies, so I don't mean that.
Okay.
It's just I've always been like very like I'm not Katie, I'm Kate. And so like if someone is being that way and they happen to share my name, I'm like, you're just Katie, actually. But anyway, all right. So all my lovely Katies, no shade. That is just how I personally get through stuff like that. Now, yeah, but back to free speech. The people like, you know, Stephen and Katie Miller, who like say these things with their full chest of I should be able to say, or so Tucker Carlson or whatever. It's always their side, by the way, who should be able to say whatever. The minute that, you know, Chuck Schumer says, and I don't love Chuck Schumer, but like the minute Chuck Schumer or Jeffries or Mamdani or whatever say anything, all of a sudden we need to take it super seriously and there need to be consequences, and maybe we should invade New York with the National Guard or whatever the hell, you know, comes out of the mouths of these people. But when their people say it, this is protected speech. I might not agree with it, but they should do whatever. That just wasn't the founders' intention. There is no historically accurate rendering of the history of the First Amendment, the history of free speech before the First Amendment, like where the idea of free speech came from. I'll do a disservice to these scholars by trying to like go into the details, like, but just suffice to say, the minute you start peeling back the layers of what was intended with the First Amendment and also what historically the idea of quote unquote free speech before the First Amendment was penned, just what thinkers and thought leaders and politicians and whatever philosophers thought along those lines bears no resemblance to this weird idea that you can literally say whatever you want and that there should be zero consequences, even zero governmental consequences. Because I know the typical like conservative talking point is like, well, it protects you from the government, right? There shouldn't be any government interference, but you know, it doesn't necessarily protect you from all the other consequences. But what's so interesting is that especially in the climate right this minute, with, you know, MAGA conservatives in particular, is that they also want freedom of consequences from literally everyone else. You know, God, you know, and like, I condemned this right away, but like, you know, Charlie Kirk and his murder, I'm like, they were the first ones to be like, you should, like, they're, you know, this was murder and whatever. And I'm like, I agree. Yet at the same time, Charlie Kirk literally said that it was worth paying human lives, to protect 2A, which again, the Second Amendment, that whole, again, if you look at the history of that, even mostly because the founding fathers were trying to be racist, was never intended to be a universal right for everyone to own a weapon. It wasn't, because they had black slaves and they did not want them to all own, you know, like they knew. So even though their intentions were bad, it's like, we still understand that their intention was never that the average human being could just walk around with a firearm. And that was you know, and arms back then didn't just mean firearm. It meant arms. It meant weaponizing and raising an army and all that kind of stuff. Like, anyway, so I could just go on and on. I think what this really comes down to, this whole idea of like the free speech thing, it really comes down to the whole like originalism dogma, which is bullshit. And especially when it comes to the Bill of Rights. Especially when you talk about amendments, the fact that we have a Bill of Rights at all, like if you go look at the Federalist Papers and like everything, you cannot with a straight face look at the history of those things and come out with the absolutisms and the binaries that conservatives in particular, but also some liberals are guilty of like not understanding as well. You just cannot come out of that with these like, which is these really poorly understood ideas of what those amendments, what those rights are. There has never been a society on the history of this earth that for real thought you could just say whatever you wanted with zero consequences, because you actually can't. Like, there's actually no way to function civically or socially with this idea that I can say whatever I want and there's zero consequences. I can say whatever I want. Like I do believe in the whole idea of like sometimes you got to let people just like make their choices. But you know, we have a lot of caveats to this, you know, freedom of speech thing for a reason, for good reasons. You can't just call, you know, people who have literally been murdered for their sexual orientation, and I'm not even talking about just historically or in the past, it still occurs. You can't just call them whatever names you want and expect to face zero civil or social consequences. And lecture, as I like to say on my channel.
Oh, good. Hey, look, what was that saying when Russell Wilson was hot in football? Let Russell cook. I'm gonna let Kate cook, you know, because your cooking is better than the Thanksgiving I had. Let's get it.
I do love to cook. That is the thing that I love to do. So.
There you go. So, and I'm with that. I love to eat, so make it happen. I want to echo some of the things she said from a different angle, because I think that she put a nice bow on the dogma surrounding these amendments and just the bull jive that people try to hide behind the amendment. First of all, the angle I'm coming from is when me and Kate first met, she knew I had a passion for, and even on this particular video, I've talked about it, education. Like I'm so big, and we need it. The minute kids almost pop out the womb, after they go through 2 weeks, we need to start educating them. And this is a reason why. MAGA and Republicans know that their people really have no idea of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or any of this. They know anecdotal pieces of it, and MAGA and Republicans are able to get these fools to rally around the little pieces of it without knowing the history of it, because they keep taking it out of fucking school. And it drives me insane. And when you teach Constitution, constitutional law, how the country got started, they cherry pick our history books so much so that a lot of this goes over everybody's head. You really have to be intellectually curious at some point in time in your life to go back and understand what the real history is. And when you're dealing with MAGA, and I'm not even just going to single out MAGA, I'm going to say in the time we're living in, where we've got TikToks and people want things in 2 or 3 minutes, it is very hard to get people to focus on the things that really matter, so that politicians and people that are rich can stop taking advantage of them and giving them the banana in the tailpipe. And not just a banana, a steel banana in the tailpipe. And it's ugly. That's my angle from this. We've got to beef up the education in school, the mandatory parts, so that kids and young adults understand these things, and they can't be so easily manipulated by these used car con artist salesmen called politicians. We've got to stop that. That's number one. And secondly, with this free speech thing, it always bothers me how Republicans' free speech somehow or another is better than everybody else's free speech. So, and I'll go back to your example with Charlie Kirk. You hit the nail on the head. We wasn't supposed to exercise our free speech to say this man died, but in part he was championing the way he died.
Right.
We wasn't supposed to talk about the bad things he said about Black women.
Right.
We wasn't supposed to talk about how he was basically telling young white women that their whole purpose in going to college should be to go find themselves a husband, period. We wasn't supposed to talk about none of that. So their free speech was higher than ours. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, Kate said it best. Even if we got rid of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, there's going to always be the law of consequences. You just cannot say whatever the fuck you want to say to everybody in every situation. Nope. You go run up in a LGBTQ club and you start calling them the F word, your consequence is liable to get your ass beat. Period. That's your consequence. You roll up in the hood as a white guy with a Klan mask on, you start calling black folks the N-word, you might not get back out of the hood. Or if you do, you ain't gonna be wearing your robe ain't gonna be white no more. So people, just take the Constitution out of it. Take all that. Speech has consequences.
Yep.
Like, stop having your brain bombarded with free speech, free speech. It's free, but the consequences cost. And I'll leave it at that so that we can get to the last segment. This is gonna, boy, buckle in, folks. This is the AI bubble. And Kate, before I kind of made a new political channel, I had a big channel that was mostly movie and TV show reviews, but there was a time where I was doing consumer advocacy stuff, finance, stocks, real estate, all the things that made me who I am today. I was doing all that on the channel. And so a lot of people had followed me from that point in time, and they've always said, Lamont, when are you going to talk about what's going on in stocks, tech, finance? When are you going to talk about that? And I said, well, get ready. I got Kate coming, and so we're going to definitely talk about it. So sit back, relax. This brother that I'm getting ready to present to you guys is a fantastic content creator. He was recently on the I've Had It podcast. He does such a great job of breaking down a lot of what's going on in the stock market when it comes to tech-heavy names. Listen to what he's got to say, and then me and Kate will wrap this thing up in a pretty bow and get you ready for Christmas.
These 7 cups represent the Magnificent Seven. Apple, Meta, Amazon, Google, Tesla, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. NVIDIA is an important one. Together, they make up almost 40% of the entire S&P. Now let's show why people are panicking about a possible AI bubble burst. This is the money that is currently being poured into artificial intelligence by these companies. They're spending almost $500 billion in things like chips, data centers, infrastructure. Microsoft alone is spending nearly $80 billion this year. Meta is buying 600,000 NVIDIA chips. Amazon and Google are building city-sized data centers. And that tiny cup is the amount of revenue that's actually coming in right now from all of this investment. Not the hype, not the valuations, the actual revenue. It's maybe somewhere around $30 to $50 billion, but to justify all of this investment, these companies have to pull in between $500 billion to $2 trillion. This is the amount of revenue that's coming in right now from AI when it needs to be able to fill up this. So what happens if this never fills up? Just kidding, I'm not gonna break my glasses. Everything starts with NVIDIA. They are the backbone to all of these other companies right now because they produce the GPUs. If these companies start pulling back their investment into AI, that impacts NVIDIA the most. If NVIDIA falls, these other companies also fall, and the entire market falls. The problem right now with AI is that there is so much investment going into it, but there is so little actual revenue coming out of it. All of these companies are over-indexing on the future of AI when the potential has just not been shown yet. So when we talk about the AI bubble bursting, it is literally and figuratively a burst, and it is going to impact the stock market.
Yep. I love Nathan, by the way. He's my boo. But
yeah, I'm gonna try to get you two together. Maybe sometime in the new year. I'm gonna try to hook y'all up together and we all do a video. But he's absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you guys wasn't born during the Enron crisis when the internet was first getting started.
Mm-hmm.
I was graduating high school in '99, and I was already following stocks, bonds, and the markets and this boom, because that was kind of when the internet was really getting hot. Facebook was coming on the scene. And if you remember back in my day, we had another one. It wasn't called Facebook. It was called, what was the guy's name? And his, what was it?
MySpace?
MySpace, yes.
Yeah.
That was the one that was big time in the beginning, MySpace. Tom was the guy who started it.
Yep.
And he blew up.
Yep.
He started trying to do all this investing and it never came back to him, blew up. Enron, same thing. They was pouring all this money into Enron. the valuation of Enron was going through the roof, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
What happened? A lot of that money, 3 men ran away with a lot of that money. Now, they had 2 of them got some consequences, but really the people suffered.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening right now with AI people.
Yeah.
AI. Just think about all that money he just mentioned is being poured into it that's not coming back. And the reason why this is significant to you, maybe you're saying, I don't own stocks, I don't deal with stock, why should I care? Because when the market collapses, the things that you do matter because it deals with loans.
Yeah.
It deals with rates. It deals with inflation. It deals with the price of our money. And all these ancillary things that you don't think can go back to the market, it can, ladies and gentlemen. It most certainly does. And that's why people like me, Kate, we're worried. We see signs and writing on the wall. We're seeing treasuries tanking. Crypto is running backwards. I mean, running back like Neil Carter. Folks, we're getting it hit pretty bad. And it's very important that you guys keep up with it. Having said that, I'm going to give the floor to Kate. Drop the bomb on us. What are you seeing? How are you feeling? What have you been reading that you can give to the people? Yes, let us know. We got to know. We got to know.
Good. So here's the thing. Like, you know, we got a really nifty thing called Sarbanes-Oxley out of the Enron scandal. And SOX is what most people know it as. And basically it was the reason that we had Enron was because of their ability to essentially cook the books. The financials that they were presenting to the world were not accurately reflecting how over leveraged they were. Their debt situation, the fact that everything that they had was underpinned by massive amounts of debt. And so then once, you know, all loans eventually get called in, and it's a much longer story than that. But to make a very long story much shorter, that is essentially what happened, is that when the bills came due, there was no actual money, and it tanked everything. So we got the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which updated a lot of generally accepted accounting principles, made a ton of reforms to how you had to present financials, and all that kind of thing. The big beautiful bill took a bite out of SOX this year. We've had President Trump say things like, maybe we shouldn't do quarterly tax returns anymore, which, you know, it's been hailed as like getting rid of red tape. For people like myself, I'm like, yes. So that means that if the bodies are buried, we have to wait 3 more months or 6 more months, or God forbid, a whole 12 months before we actually find them. Not great. You know, there's problems. We got problems down in River City, or trouble down in River City. I'm quoting the musical wrong. So really, again, to make a very, very long AI story short, there is all this investment going on. NVIDIA is the center of it. NVIDIA is what's crazy about them is that they are at the same time that they're selling all of these chips to these customers, they are also investing into those customers. So they are either guaranteeing or providing significant amounts of capital to those same startups, or to the Oracles, to the Microsofts, to the Metas, to the whatever. Like, it's all this one big pile of money that's just kind of circulating through.
And today, as we speak, they just formed a partnership with Synapse.
Yes.
And that partnership is going to be a dual partnership where they are giving cash and they're including some of their technology as well. But just floor is yours again.
Right. No, but that's exactly it, is that it's so convoluted now. And so it really is one of those things where if convoluted involved markets are not like necessarily a new thing. And in fact, we would say generally economically, if you talk to like a real economist, which I'm not one, but if you talk to a real economist, they would say like, you know, complex involved markets are usually good, because it usually means that they have less room for failure. The problem with AI is that it is first of all concentrated in the Magnificent Seven, as Nathan so beautifully illustrated, and it's also all built on debt. NVIDIA was pinned to the wall in their latest quarterly financials came out, and a lot of people who know a lot about accounting had a lot of questions for them about their financial statements, because if you look at their financials just on the surface level, and I went and looked at the finances that they had released on their official website. So I went and looked at their like balance sheet and whatever. And if you look at it, it looks fine. It looks pretty. It's like, oh, you don't have a lot of debt and you are bringing in lots of revenue and making a profit. Like they look like they're turning a profit. But even one of the deals that have been publicized, like one investment into one company would wipe out what they say that they've made in profit. So obviously people have had questions. They're like, okay, so if you invested, I'm just gonna make stuff up, but like if you invested $80 billion over here with Meta, how is that reflected on the balance sheet?
Right.
They have no answer for you. They do a lot of like blah, 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 nothing to see over here, whatever. And it's just like, and obviously very smart journalists, like, financial reporters and whatever, like, no, really, like if you are making a quote unquote 50 billion, 5 billion, 100 billion, whatever the hell, here, there, and everywhere investment, where is that money on this balance sheet? Because typically, for those who are not accountants, when you make an outlay, it's called a liability. So your balance sheet is going to have your assets and your liabilities and your equity. When you say like, okay, I'm going to make a $50,000 loan to somebody for a startup, that would show up on your balance sheet as a $50,000 liability.
Right.
Whether the cash is necessarily out the door that's a different, that's a different thing. Like that would show in different parts of the balance sheet as far as like how much cash you actually have on hand versus how much is gone. You also in financial statements, you would have a statement of cash flows that would show the actual like going out. So you might not, maybe all the cash isn't out the door, but you've still made a loan, and these AR startups have already spent that money. They have taken it as investment. Sometimes even if they don't have the cash, they're like, hey, I have this loan from NVIDIA. So can I go ahead and buy that property and build that data center and whatever. And so the money is gone, so to say, as far as like, it's been spent 3 years down the road type thing. If at any point, if any of those debts are called in and the cash is not there to satisfy, it immediately starts a ripple effect. So let's say, I'm trying to, there's so many different AI startups, I don't even know which one to pick, but like, let's just say Meta. Let's say we'll make something up. NVIDIA is making a $100 billion investment into Meta, who is then going to turn around and spend, build 5 data centers with it. And they build those 5 data centers, and maybe they only got half the cash up front, but they're telling everybody, hey, it's NVIDIA, it's a sure thing, right? Blah, blah, blah. So we can go ahead. This is how the credit system works. And it happens all the time. It's like, well, if you have a good guarantor, then people are willing to give you services and goods and whatever on the strength of your guarantor, not necessarily on the strength of your cash. So they might say, sure, I'll take 25, the construction company's building the data center, I'll take 25% for the project now, you'll deliver the rest upon completion, or maybe they might even have a longer term plan, like, you can pay me 2 years from now or whatever. To Nathan's point in his original video of like how much revenue they're actually bringing in, that's how much cash they have to play with. Like there's no actual cash like happening. And that's what's crazy. So the debts and the liabilities is the problem here. We can see, because there's a new press release about a new startup and a new investment every freaking day. There's a new one. There's a new thing, and it's getting NVIDIA, or it's getting Microsoft, or it's getting Oracle, or it's getting whatever, whatever. And everybody keeps asking the same question. Where the hell is the cash? Because right now it just looks like you're all doing it on the backs of each other as guarantors. And that is like the magic cut trick. Okay. We can do this for a while, but eventually when you can command that much power and you have that much of the market under your control, and also when you have a regulatory environment like our current SEC,
thank you,
that is just like, do what the fuck you want, and the CFPB is being gutted, and like all this kind of, like all the things that we talked about, these are all interrelated. AI is in defense contracting now. Like there's a lot of really powerful, it's permeated defense contract, because it's in Palantir, it's in Anduril, it's in, like, that's a whole other subject that we could get into.
Yes. But
the point is that you have very powerful players who are willing to sit there and help keep the illusion of growth and stability there. So they can make this go on for a while. People think like that I'm like an AI doomer. I'm not an AI doomer. I actually was using ChatGPT for the last couple of years because I think it has some very useful applications. Definitely. I do not believe that it has the ability to literally replace humans on the job. I don't believe that. I think the technology has, like, we have some really great creators out there right now who are showing how poor this technology is at being self-sufficient. It needs human interaction to work. And
it needs prompting.
Right. It needs prompting, because if it prompts itself, it will go into a loop. And if it doesn't have prompts from someone who actually knows what they're talking about, it will start to hallucinate. This is all well documented. Like, everyone can see this. Like, no one's actually that confused. But we continue to sell either like the boomer or the doomer thing, right? The doomer is that they'll take over the world. It'll be like the Matrix. The boomer is that it's like gonna, replace all the workforce. We're all gonna be filthy rich. It's neither of those things. It's like the internet. It's a freaking tool. It is what you put into it. Human beings at the end of the day are still supreme in intelligence, even as stupid as some of us are acting right now. Like, I genuinely believe that. Maybe that's idealistic, but that's what I believe. And the data bears that out. So AI is never going to get to the point, like, 2 trillion, when Nathan was like, it would have to make $2 trillion a year to justify the investment. $2 trillion is half of our federal budget on an annual basis. Our annual federal budget is like $4 trillion something dollars. A single industry based on a technology that is still emergent, that is not doing all the things that people claim it does. I should say the boomers claim it does. Like, it does a lot of great things, but it does not do that level of work. It can't. It's not actually capable of that. So it doesn't do all those things. We're really going to sit here with a straight face and say that is capable of pulling in half of our federal government's budget and revenue per year. Be so for real right now. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like if you just, like, I'm not a fan of oversimplifying arguments, but like, that's like, as you talk about the people who might hate watch this and go like, what do you have? Like, prove to me. It's like, well, you tell me how in God's name you think that half of the equivalent to half of our federal budget a year is going to be made on a technology that literally produces human beings in video, like when AI generated videos that have like 3 arms, unprompted.
Yeah.
Like, people are trying, they're trying to like make commercials or make video bits with it or whatever. And the thing is, like, people are literally just like, it's just, like, no, it's not capable of turning that kind of profit. And profit, not revenue.
Profit.
It's got,
profit, not revenue. Right. Profit, people. Profit.
Impossible. There is no steel and oil in the Carnegie Mellon Rockefeller heyday could not make that much money.
Nope.
Like, it is such a bizarre claim to make. It is like we're truly in the upside down. But the point of being fleeced by capitalists, and then I'll stop because I know I'm going on for a while. The point of being fleeced by capitalists is not that they really believe their own bullshit. They don't believe their own bullshit. They know full well that this is bullshit. But they can make money on it in the short term and then golden parachute out of it. And the golden parachute is made out of your retirement and my retirement and my parents' retirement. Like, because whether you think you're in the, to your point earlier, whether you think you're in the market or not, some of your assets are in the market, whether you will or not. Because you're not the one who controls ultimately where your assets go. If you have a 401k, even if you have like your basic like mutual fund savings account, whatever, like that shit's being invested. There's all this talk about bank liquidity right now because even the FDIC stuff that you have is being leveraged into this bullshit. Hopefully the federal government will fulfill on its FDIC obligations if and when that becomes an issue. But this is like the first year that I'm kind of looking at stuff like that and going like, yeah, I freaking hope so, because the government so far, it used to be like you had a federal contract that was a sure thing. And obviously this year has proved to be like, that's not real. These things only, like these protections only work as long as we have policymakers and a regulatory environment that will make sure that it works and it makes sense. We don't have that. Exactly. I think it would be less dire if we had an administration that was more skeptical and was willing to follow through on the legislation that's already, this legislation is already on the books. Like I said, we got Sarbanes-Oxley out of all of this. We've had protections put in place from the last major corporate malfunction.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like, if barring a regulatory environment that's going to stop all of that. I mean, part of, you know, we had Sarbanes-Oxley, but then we got the housing crisis because we had an administration that didn't give a shit. You know, and Obama
and then we got Dodd-Frank out of that. And
right, exactly.
They constantly poop on him and what that did to try to solve the problem that Republicans created again.
Right.
Again.
Yeah. And then you have people like Michelle Bowman on the Federal Reserve Board, you know, saying we need to stop. We need to make sure banks can make profits. Like that's her thing. She was like, we have to not get in the way of banks making profits, which she said this back in like April or May or something. And my eyes like boggled out of my head. I was like, when have banks ever been stopped from it? Like, please point to the time in history where banks have not made hand over fist in profits. I'll wait. Like there isn't one. Like even in the Great Depression, banking crisis or whatnot, there were banks who made out. You know what I mean? Like obviously there were plenty of banks that did not. But
JP Morgan Chase.
It's so
Morgan
funny.
Stanley. I mean, I can name a bunch of them.
Right. Did you see Jamie Dimon's video the other
Yes.
day where he was like, yeah, we have to be careful because this only works as long as this is my point. The administrative environment is the key, is the X factor here. Right. We've had bad actors in corporate capitalism always. They will always be there. Capitalism is just like, and by the way, I'm not a communist. Like I'm a socialist, and I'm a socialist in certain industries. I like capitalism as far as like not education, not healthcare, and not housing. Like get out of those things, and then you can have all the capitalism you want. I don't care. You know, like that's kind of how I feel.
And even with that, Kate, I'm still for regulated capitalism. I'm not for
exactly, totally regulated, right? Because you know, you still use our roads and our resources, and so you're going to pay your taxes, and you're going to be regulated, and you'll just deal with it. But you can still make a ton of money in that. Like I don't understand what the problem is. Like you know, make your millions and get out of my face. But so in that environment, sorry, it's just I'm real spicy tonight. I've had it, just like your girls have had, and so you can like you're going. Sorry, I got totally sidetracked. In capitalism, you're going to have these bad actors. You just will, and there's nothing to stop the Gordon Gekko greed is good from being a virtue that some people aspire to. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if we were in a different administration with a different regulatory environment, I'd be like, kind of sucks, kind of concerning, but like, fortunately, we have some guardrails and just don't play in that market and you should be okay. In this current environment, when, you know, our retirements are like private equity is moving into 401ks and like things like, and so people who they don't know better, or because they're not really the ones who manage their assets, they don't have a choice. Like they don't have ultimate agency over where their stuff is. They end up being the exit liquidity, exit equity for all of these fools. And, you know, that's why I was sounding the alarm about Peter Thiel getting out of NVIDIA. I was like, and he's not the only one. People thought I was just like making a big deal about, you know, Peter Thiel. He's a weirdo. Like he's not. I'm like SoftBank. Like everybody is making a hasty, you know, move to the exit from NVIDIA. They might not be, and that was the 13F from the quarter that ended September 30. It is
right.
December 1, guys. Like the last 2 months, we won't know those filings until the end of January at the earliest, maybe even later. Like it might be closer to like February before we actually know what people did in Q4. And by then,
I can tell you where a lot of the NVIDIA money went at. A lot of the NVIDIA money went into Google. A lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of.
So now they're doing this.
Yes. You had Warren Buffett. He got out of Apple. He got out of Nvidia. Pretty much same time Peter Thiel did. Right. Even Jensen Huang himself.
That's the crazy part.
And for those of you who don't know who Jensen Huang is, he's CEO of Nvidia.
Right.
He released that he put a lot of money into Google.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel came out and said, Alex Karp, for those of you who know Palantir, why are they putting all their money in Google?
Yeah.
Google is getting ready to start making their own chips.
Right.
And Google is profitable.
Yes.
Highly profitable.
Yeah.
Now, on paper, when it comes to evaluation, NVIDIA is evaluated more than Google.
Right.
But profit-wise, Google is bar none. Their stock is like $300 and some odd now. And for some reason, Kate, all the tech guys start just pouring all kinds of money into Google.
Yeah. No, I think it's gonna be bad. And what sucks about that is like, Google will be fine no matter what happens.
Right.
As far as like the corpus of the thing. This is the other thing that I'm trying to emphasize to people. Like these people are going to get theirs because that's how it works. They're the insiders. They're going to make sure that they get no matter what happens.
Exactly.
You will not. You will lose. The house wins. I think I made that joke in one of my videos. The house wins every single time. And these investments are really no better at this point. These AI investments are really no better than playing the slots in Las Vegas. You might as well just take your money and go do that because you might get rich quick or you might lose all your money. But what I can guarantee is that you will lose a ton of money in the process, whether or not you hit some kind of jackpot, which is unlikely. And the house wins. Like the Mag 7 are the house. They're going to win. Like you said, Jensen Huang is already hedging his bets with the firm that was always going to be the heir of this anyway. Like Google is
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's like no one's confused. So NVIDIA like got the engine started, and now the ones who run NVIDIA are like running to the actual daddy, which is Google. In the meantime,
and Microsoft,
right?
And Microsoft,
and all these people who poured their money into NVIDIA and were like, "That's a sure thing," are like, I'm like, you guys are not you will not win this game. And again, if we had actual regulatory environment, I would be less like, oh my God. Right. But here we are. And again, and the way that, AI is in defense contracting now and everything, it's terrifying. It's all so scary. And OpenAI, Sam Altman's already doing the whole like, oh, we're too big to fail, and we've never heard that before. And so they're already sounding out for government bailouts. Like, I'm like, guys, this is be so for real with me right now that everybody's literally looking at this going like, everything's fine. Like, you're just being, you're being a doomer for no reason. And I'm like, I am being, I think, just realistic. And again, this is just from analyzing the data of much smarter people. Like, the information is all out there. This is all being done in the open, in public. Like, people acting like it's so, because the regulatory environment is so bad, they are so brazen right now. You have to be willfully ignorant in order to not see what's happening. Like, at least with like Enron, we didn't really have much of an internet yet to like deal, right. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't this. And also we had a different, we had not the greatest regulatory environment, but we had like something. And like, they were at least a little bit like, had some sense of shame, and we're trying to do this in a back room, right? And even with the housing crisis, it was like it wasn't all out in front. Like, this is so, they're like literally tweeting out like, we are defrauding you guys, like, with this AI BS, and people are still buying it, and it just is blowing my mind right now. I'm like, you don't have to be a genius, you don't have to be an economist, you don't have to be a financial analyst to see this, because everybody's saying it out loud, and the data's there.
But here's the problem, Kate, and this is where I just have to go back to education.
Yeah.
a lot of the people who listen to this stuff, they can't wrap their heads around financial jargon. They can't wrap their head around the astronomical amount of money we're talking about. For some people, it is so intimidating to them. They don't have any kind of intellectual curiosity about it. They just trust that Trump, they've heard for so many years, regulations is killing the business owners, and regulation is killing this guy who helps me have my job. We just need to let the government get the hell out the way.
Right.
And they don't realize that the government has gotten the hell out the way so that the wolf can invade the sheep's house. Yep. That's what I mean when I say, Kate, we've got to get back to educating people as early as possible so that they don't get thrown out here into this world not understanding a con artist. Yeah. Because people is getting conned, right? Whenever you see people who, and I'm talking about these tech billionaires, most of them, who were all lefty at one point in time, fraternizing with Trump. Mm-hmm. And these guys are supposed to be smart people. Right. And Trump, we know he's not smart. Why would they degrade their dignity by hanging with him if they are not getting something from it? Right. And they don't give a shit that, they don't give a shit that people say, Democrats anyway, why are you doing this? Because he is making them so much money by deregulating everything. And now, Kate, you kind of hit it, but you didn't go all the way in on it. The banks are in bed with these tech companies now because of their deregulatory environment. Now they are allowed, banks are allowed, if the regular person overdraws in the account, they can slap you with $60. Yeah. At one point in time, we was protected from that. Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize, Kate, the way these billionaires operate and make their money and avoid paying taxes. If you are the CEO of one of these companies we just got finished talking about, and you've got a lot of stock in the company, you take out a 1% interest loan against whatever portion of your company you want to put up, and you live off that. You ain't paying out a single tax on it. Right. Nothing. Yep. Nothing. You're basically living off everybody else's hard work money. Yep. Not to mention those same people done got that money up front for their fucking companies when they're small businesses that have been the backbone of communities for generations that are barely making it. And you want to continue to give all these breaks to the richest companies who are playing hopscotch with your money, and somebody's going to trip and fall. It's going to happen. Yep. It's going to happen. And so people, when we go off on these tangents, we're trying to warn you. And for the cheap seats in the back listening to us, I've tried to break down everything Kate said in a way you can understand it. The best way you can understand it, so that you can actually go and try to look this stuff up on your own. Because this is what you have allowed this administration to do. This is what you have allowed these rich guys to do who don't care about you. If they really could replace you with a robot, they would. They're trying to do that now, but they know secretly that they're nowhere near doing it. They're nowhere near doing it. And you see all these things about evaluations, this, evaluations that. That's just what it is. That's not profit, as Kate said. It's not profit. So, folks, do your research as best you can. Use ChatGPT, use Google in conjunction. Use them together, not independently, together to get the best consensus answer. And follow Kate. Definitely follow me. Kate, tell the people what you got going on your channel over the next couple of days on TikTok that they can look forward to. I would love to see you call another politician. Those are always so much fun.
Oh, I put up 3 of those today. So I have turned my focus to, I am still focused on the appropriations process, or what's left of it, the joke of it that it is at this point. So I'm going to be covering that. I have also turned my attention to midterms and getting us ready. Yeah, because it's now or never, guys. Like, we've got a year to put in a Congress that doesn't suck as much. So I am calling it We the People's Revenge, and we need to, we just need to take back this Congress from ideologues. And I mean on both sides of the aisle, because the overarching issue is neoliberalism. I am going to post something on Substack about this pretty soon, but this whole the free market, the laissez-faire economics, the let it do what it do thing. It is a poison and a pox on both the houses. And that is like everything that we've been talking about tonight really centers on that. It centers on the special interests that purchase our representatives so that they cave instead of pushing for the things that we need. It centers on this industry is really hot. It's making a ton of money right now. And so we can't regulate it. It's all back to that neoliberal bullshit. It is a religion. And it is a religion that has permeated both parties. You know, the bank issue you're just talking about, and then I'll stop. I won't go on much of a tangent about this.
You're good. You're good.
But you know, we had after the Great Depression, after the crash that led to the Great Depression, we had legislation put in place, a lot of different legislation. The centerpiece of it was Glass-Steagall, that firewalled investment banks from regular depository banks. So like the bank that I put my paycheck in was never going to be, before Glass-Steagall was overturned. But while Glass-Steagall was in place, the banks where I am depositing my paycheck are not the same bank that is playing in Wall Street. Wall Street could suffer a nuclear bomb, and
you good.
And my money was good. Yeah.
And now they're mixing it with private equity and shit.
But Glass-Steagall was repealed by Clinton. Like, you know,
Jesus.
So like, you know,
I remember that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that both parties bear establishment politicians and both parties bear responsibility in varying degrees, yes, and for varying reasons, yes, but ultimately because of corporate overlords, billionaires, special interests, lobbyists, whatever, insert rich person thing here. That's what I mean. And when I say rich person thing, I mean like stupid rich. I don't mean like if you've made millions running your business and your finances, well, good for you. I am literally not talking about you. When I say tax the rich on my channel, because I say it all the time, I'm not talking to you. I am talking to Peter Thiel and to Alex Karp and to Sam Altman and Jensen Huang. That's who I am talking. Those are the people that I am like, you know, while NVIDIA is playing with everybody's money, they also approved $1 billion stock buyback in August. You know,
thank you.
Right. Like it's that
you can afford it.
Right. Exactly. I'm like, if you can afford that, you can pay some freaking taxes. Anyway, don't get me started. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm covering on my channel is I really focus on the economic inequality and on the neoliberal policies that got us here, because that's what keeps progress moving forward from either party. It's why we, the people, are so freaking frustrated, why we have these pendulum swings from Congress to Congress every 2 years when we have midterms or you know, national general or a general election for, you know, the presidential general election or whatever. It's why there's so much desperation. It's because we know, we the people know that we need something different. But we're not going to get anything different until this religiosity around the neoliberal free market thing is done. And I mean done. Like it needs to be gone.
R.I.P.
Right. R.I.P. in the ground. Thank you for your service, but not really like spit on your grave type thing. Like it really needs, we need to stop thinking that pure market solutions are the antidote to all things. They're not. When it comes to, like I said, education, when it comes to education, healthcare, I would argue housing to an extent, though, you know, I'm willing to play a little bit with capitalism on that. But like when it comes to those basic, food, healthcare, education, those are really the three things that I'm like, capitalism has no place for that. No place in that. It needs to be taxpayer funded. There's plenty of taxes. And then, like I said, you can have capitalism all the day long with everything else. I don't care. Like, you know, do whatever you want. So that's my thesis. So anyway, that's what I've got going on my channels right now, is really just trying to get to the root of the reason when we talk about like the state and local Democrats having such a sweeping victory. They had a sweeping victory because they understood the affordability thing and the fact that people really needed to be able to just pay their bills. And it's that simple. It's just that simple. It's not really that complicated. It's not hard. So that's what we're talking about over there.
Me and Kate get along so well because at her core, she's all about where I'm at with trying to bridge this gap of people really understanding how money works, how their money oftentimes is working against them when they give someone, the wrong people, their vote. And just bringing home from the stock market and inflation to your grocery mart and your house. And I married that with social justice. And I lead with the money, and then I show you how social justice ties into that. So that's why me and Kate get along so well. And we seems like we're having these nerdy kind of financial talks because we're trying to make sure you guys understand what is really at play. And there was like so many other things we could have talked about today that we didn't. We'll do another one another day. But Kate segued something that I'll get you guys out of here on. As we talk about how in this segment, Kate, we talked about how right now we're in an AI bubble, and that bubble, this new technology, is also being led by bank deregulation. You just hit on a point that we seen happen when Clinton went in there and shredded up the regulation for the banks. He was getting ready for the tech boom. And we saw a burst in that tech boom dealing with the banks. So folks, we bring it home for you here. We make sure we bring it home here. And we make that circle good for you, but please share our content. You know where to find me. You know where to find her. And until that next Sex is Hell team up, I'm going to get you guys out of here with Jasmine Crockett. This is my favorite outro. Take us home, Jasmine.
Somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body.